Hello, visitors. Hi, Mitch.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. So, again, I'm going to do my normal thing here. I've got the chat open right now. I see a bunch of people came in. We're not going to be looking at the chat at all, though. Mitch and I are just going to have a conversation here. The second half, whenever the second half is, we'll open it up and let you guys ask questions. I see Geek Boy's here. If you don't mind, Geek Boy, drop Mitch's link every once in a while. And if somebody does start asking questions and feels like they're being ignored, please just let them know that, hey, they don't even look at the chat. Save those questions. I just hate when people feel like they're ignored. So, and if any other mods come in too, appreciate that. That's it. So I'm closing out the chat. I can't even see it. So you guys can talk all the crap that you want. It's gone. Chat is gone. Okay. Hi, Mitch.
Hello, Rico.
I've been looking forward to this one.
Me too.
You're relatively new to our community, not to fish keeping, but just our community. But you really hit the ground running, I felt. You showed up with a bang. You have a really cool live stream on Tuesday nights at, remind me, because it's right 9 o'clock. Yeah.
Yep.
Usually right.
It used to be 8:30.
And you moved it because of me, right? A little bit?
Well, so you got rid of the excuse to do it at 8:30. It was basically what it was. So it was, we had been talking about it for a while. And then when you were going over, we were like, you know what? We might as well move it to 9 now. So it was actually good for us because we were having trouble making it to the 8:30.
You're welcome then. I was going to apologize, but instead you're welcome.
Yeah.
That's cool. But so, when I do my focus on Tuesday, then Mitch and Tanner,
that's right.
Tanner. I was second guessing myself. Tanner do a live stream right after me. That's very fish centric, and they really go in depth into some really cool topics and stuff. And they're both pretty knowledgeable. They both know their stuff pretty good. So if you guys haven't watched it, you really should check it out. And again, hopefully mods are dropping Mitch's link. So Mitch, I know you live in Tennessee.
Yep.
I was introduced to you from my good friend, Chattanooga Ed. So you don't live too far away from Ed, right? An hour or so, 2 hours?
Yeah, a little under 2 hours. I'm in Knoxville, so I'm closer to James, Fisherman Fever. And but Ed comes to our local club. But I met Ed in person. I'd met him online a few times, but I met him in person for the first time at Aquaticon. And super nice guy. And you said, you were talking about the channel hitting the ground running. That was all Ed's doing. When Ed found out that I had started a channel and I was just kind of playing around with it, he was like, listen, show up here and I'll make sure people know about you. And so I owe it all to Ed. That's the whole reason why I hit 400 and something as quickly as I did, for sure.
And I bet a lot of people have that same story like that, because Ed's just that kind of guy where he likes to help people out and get the community going. So that's Ed all over right there, that story. So I can tell you're Tennessee. You have not lived anywhere else. I normally ask people, but I can tell you when I think of Tennessee, your face pops into my head.
Well, that's good. I like that. I have been here all my life, and I honestly don't know of a place I'd rather live. I have considered moving a couple of times for different reasons, but never been able to pull me out of this valley.
Gotcha. Have you ever? I think we talked about this before. There's a comedian. His name is Nate Bargatze or something like that.
Bargatze. Yeah.
Did you go and look him up?
Yeah, I looked him up. I had never heard of him until you told me about him. And I turned him on. Me and my daughter, we were on YouTube, and I was like, hey, let's look this guy up. I was like, somebody told me that I was the Nate Bargatze of the Fish Fam. So let's take a look at it. And we love Nate Bargatze. We're actually looking at going to one of his live shows when he's going to be close by. We've been following him now.
He's awesome. I like his sense of humor. He's so dry, but I feel like you do. You look like you could be his brother or something. If anybody hasn't, you guys really should go check it out. You look
That's
related.
possible. I don't know his
But
family that well, but that's possible.
he's from Tennessee as well, right?
I don't know his
But
family that well.
he's from Tennessee as well, right? So
From Nashville.
maybe it's just something you guys all look alike in Tennessee. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, I think when you brought it up, I was commenting on the fact that I have this really bad habit of going so. Anytime I start something, I have a really like when I'm editing, it drives me crazy because I go so, and I'm trying to fix that. And I mentioned it, and when you brought him up, the very first stand up video that I pulled up, he started everything with so, and I was like, "Yep, that's it. It must be a regional thing."
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you guys will meet at a family reunion or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, again, you're born and raised in Tennessee.
Mhm.
You said you were interested a couple of times. Have you done a lot of traveling? Have you been around the world? Have you been around the United States? Have you gotten
Yeah.
to see our great country?
Well, mainly just the southeast for the most part. You know, I've been to all the most of the coastal states in my area. So I have been to Georgia and Florida and South Carolina. We actually one of our favorite places to vacations in South Carolina. My wife grew up going to this place called Fripp. Oh, I'm not supposed to tell anybody else where it's at because it's becoming busy. So it's this
Okay.
little island. It's horrible. It's disgusting. It's nobody
Yeah.
wants to go there, but
Giant
no,
roaches.
yeah, it's horrible, but it's called Fripp Island. I can't keep the secret anymore. It's everybody knows about it apparently. What's funny is when we first started dating and I would tell people about it, they were like, "Where?" And now people are like, "Oh yeah, my somebody in my family goes there every year." But
It
that's what it's like
sounds
for us.
familiar.
Well, they
Somebody, go ahead.
I was just going to say it is pretty well known once you start looking into it. It's got like a really nice golf course. I don't golf, I fish, so doesn't mean much to me. But I know a lot of people go there for the golfing or golf or whatever you call it. Uh, but Forrest Gump, the movie Forrest Gump, the Vietnam scenes were filmed on Fripp Island. And there's a number of other movies that have been filmed on the island, but it's like a private island, and you have to go through a guard shack. That got to drive past a guard shack and a gate to get on. And it's almost all homes that are rented out. So you rent a home and stay there. And so the beaches are much more private, and I hated vacationing growing up. I grew up on a lake. I'd rather go to the lake. I don't need to go to the beach. I don't need to do any of that. I've got the lake. That's all I need. And so when my wife first invited me to go with her and her family, I was like, nah, I'm good. I don't need to go. And then it was the most relaxing vacation I've ever been on. I came back and quit a job, realized I was working too hard. And I love it. I look forward to it every time. Like we enjoy, going to Disney every now and then, which is way too expensive now. So that's off the tables. But, we enjoy doing a fun vacation, but it's just a relaxing, good time. I love it.
Gotcha. I definitely have heard of it from someplace, and maybe it was the Forrest Gump. I actually looked it up on Wikipedia while you were talking, and there's nothing there that stands out to me. I just scanned it really quick. Maybe Forrest Gump. It definitely sounds very familiar to me. I've never been there because I don't remember. I've been to South Carolina, but I was 6 or 7 years old, and that was
Yeah.
I think when I was 8, they invented rocks. So
Right.
it was, it was quite a long time ago.
Well, it's south of Charleston, and you have to hop a few islands to get to it. Like it used to be Beaufort, which is a historic city. Beaufort was the closest city where you could go shopping, and you'd have to drive about 30 minutes hopping islands to get back to Beaufort. Now there's restaurants on the island, no chain restaurants or anything like that. It's all owned by the island, but it's totally different than, it's not like going to Myrtle. Myrtle's like the place where I'm from. Everybody goes to Myrtle,
Yeah.
or Destin, something like that. But yeah, so I've been to South Carolina, been to North Carolina because I'm not far from there, and of course Kentucky, not far from Kentucky, and
Gotcha.
Illinois. No, Indiana, not Illinois, Indiana. So that's my states. See, there's not many of them. I haven't been very far. I want to
And
go west sometime, but I haven't.
yeah. Oh yeah. There's lots to see out there, especially the Pacific Northwest. I mean, I lived in
Yes.
Arizona, so there's a lot to see out there too. But I think every state, just about every state, I've been through most of them, and most of them have something good to talk about.
Yeah.
They really do. Every place has some beautiful scenery. Every place has got good things and bad things about it. And I think we're lucky to live in a place like this where
Oh yeah.
where we have all these different things that you can go. I live in upstate New York,
Right.
which is totally different than New York City, right? We
Right.
just have all these different choices, though. We have a lot of choices on where we can live. So, is there any place that really stands out to you that you maybe thought about moving? Or is there any place that you'd like to just stay for like a year? Any
Yeah.
place
Well,
like that? Or
we almost moved to Louisville, Kentucky for school. I went back to college and I was looking at a school in Louisville. My grandfather lived in Louisville at the time, so I was actually interested in spending some time with him. And that didn't work out. Things just didn't work out, so we ended up staying. And I finished school online. But yeah, Louisville almost happened. That was we were planning, we were packing things up, getting ready to make that move, and something didn't happen at the school, and I got accepted, but I couldn't afford it. Is basically what it boiled
oh,
down to, and
yeah,
so we had to go with an alternate.
gotcha.
This is
And
normal for my live stream. I'm still here, but the dog has to be let out. I apologize. I'm
oh
still
yeah,
here.
not a problem. Believe me, I understand. Is that? I'm trying to see that plant in the background there, guys.
It's a pothos.
Oh, it is a pothos. Okay. And what kind of doggy are you letting out? Oh, you can't talk to us. I just saw you had the microphone. I thought you were using the earbuds for your microphone too.
Here he
Oh,
is. He didn't want out. He wanted food.
what's
Um,
his name?
his name's Bentley. He's going to hit the mic. He is a Shorkie. So he looks like a Yorkie, but he's like a designer mutt.
Oh, gotcha.
So
Look at him.
yeah,
Oh,
he's a good one. He'll be 2 this summer. Full
I love
grown.
dogs.
I do.
Definitely a dog person. Yeah, dogs are my favorite. Even over fish, dogs are my favorite animals to
We are
share my
all
home with.
allergic. So we
Really?
had, yeah. So when we gave into the dog, um, we had to find something that we could live with, and
So
that was an
he's
interesting search.
so his fur, or whatever, his
Yeah,
hair is
he has hair.
hypoallergenic.
Yeah, yeah. So Yorkies, Yorkshire Terriers, and Shih Tzus both have hair, so they don't shed. They don't have all the same issues. Typically, they're fairly hypoallergenic. So I had to find a dog that there's like 5 dogs that we weren't showing any signs to being allergic to. And so I had to find something that we could afford that was within those mix. So
Gotcha.
what was difficult? I was trying to find, I tried to go the route of the shelter, and with a small dog like that, those breeds they won't give them to you if you have kids. At least not in my area. So every
Oh,
time we would find one, um, when we would start talking about the application, they'd say no because we had small kids.
wow. So yeah, so I didn't run into that. I ran it because I like the shelter route too,
Hmm.
and yeah, I ran into some other issues, but well, maybe I didn't even bring that up because my kids are adults. So I do
Yeah,
have kids that live at home, but they're adults. So maybe I just even because I was looking for a little dog as well, something about that
yeah,
size. What I was looking for. Of course, I
yeah.
got
He's
an
under 10
Australian
pounds.
Shepherd, so
Yeah.
Wally's a big boy. Um,
Yep.
what if you don't mind? What were you going to school for, or what did you go to
So
school for?
yeah, so my degree is in education. So I have a teaching degree. I don't currently use it. I got a job working for an insurance company. I work for a national insurance company, and I've got a fairly comfy job that I don't know that I wouldn't mind getting away from, but the insurance and everything, the pay kind of draws keeps me there for
Yeah.
now. But I hope to teach. Who knows? Maybe I'll retire and teach.
So when you said you quit your job when you came back from Fripp Island that one time, it made you realize, is that when you went right back to school right after that to take up teaching, or did you
No,
sort of look around a little bit to try different stuff, or
yeah, so at that time, I was working 2 jobs, a full-time job and a part-time job, and I wasn't married yet. And I was working for uh, a local meter reading company, so I worked for the local utility board, and so every day I was jogging about 13 miles. and that job, the way it worked was you had your route, you finish your route, you get paid for a day. If you picked up part of another route, you got overtime. So, we did pretty good, and we'd get a lot done during the day, and then we'd get done at like lunchtime, and I'd still get paid for, time and a half. So it was pretty good setup, and we got everything done. And then I had a job working for UPS
Hmm.
unloading trucks. And so in the evenings, I was sweating for about 4 hours unloading trucks.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was destroying me, my health wise. I could not put on any weight. I was going to bed after eating a large pizza from Domino's, and I was still like 130 pounds. And so I
You
went on
son of
this
a bitch.
vacation.
I don't need to hear that stuff. That's,
Well, hey, I
that's,
mean, you go in and you do this all evening and
yeah,
then run all day. There's
yeah,
just
yeah.
nothing. Like I got to eat Hostess cakes all day.
Shut
I
up.
was
That's,
drinking Mountain Dew by the gallon. It didn't matter what I put in my body. I was burning it all off.
I can
Boy,
look at
did
a
it wreck
Mountain
me when I
Dew.
quit.
I just got to look at a Mountain Dew and I'm going to gain 5 pounds.
Yeah. Well, it wrecked
I
me
don't-
when I quit doing it for sure. Caught up
yeah,
with me
13
because my
miles
habits didn't
walking,
change.
13 miles walking or jogging, and
Yeah.
then doing that too. Jesus.
Yeah.
You're,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, that probably is a little too much cardiovascular.
yeah. I was young
You're
though.
probably,
Yeah, I
yeah,
was in my 20s. So
yeah.
it was one of those things where I didn't feel it. Like I knew it was a problem because I couldn't put on the weight and everything. And so I could feel it, but I couldn't feel it, but I knew it was a problem. And after taking that trip, and I was like, not doing anything, even for a few hours in the evening, sound pretty nice.
So you got rid of UPS?
I did. Yeah. I was at that time, they were quoting us like 12 years to go full time. And the other job was full time. So I had to drop the part time job,
Yeah, yeah.
which was
Besides, it
my
sounds like
insurance
the other,
company.
the other one sounds like it was better anyways. I mean, it just sounds like it was,
Yeah. It was a good
half
deal.
day basically,
Yeah.
right? And still
Yeah.
getting paid all that extra. Yeah. So, and you were actually emptying out the meters, or what were you doing for that?
Yeah, so the utility board that I read meters for, we read water, gas,
Oh,
and electric meters, and so you're good. When I tell people, they never know what to ask about it because you don't think about it. Your meter's on the house, you don't really pay any attention to it.
well, I'm thinking of parking meters for some reason.
Oh, cleaning out the meters. Okay, yeah, no, it was the
Yeah.
utility
See?
board. So I was being dropped off in a neighborhood and walking, jogging around the neighborhood, collecting the readings.
Okay.
Because back then
Okay.
we actually, the radio signal meters came out while I was doing the job. So I had a few of my routes that got upgraded to where, we had a device that would just read the meters from a certain distance. And so I was part of that in my area, testing it out and everything. And that was really interesting. But, and that's about the time I moved to what was called country reading. And that means I was having to drive up and down driveways all day and get in and out of a truck and run around a house and read a electric meter and run back. And yeah, the water wells, everybody's got a water well. Well, not everybody here. Everybody's got a water well in front of their house. And you just lift the lid, wipe it off, read it, and go to the next one. Gas meters and electric meters, on the sides of the house. So that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Dealt with a
Okay.
lot of dogs. Learned,
I was going to ask that. I was going to
yeah, I
ask. That's
trained
where I was
people on
going.
how to handle dogs.
Yeah.
Honestly, after doing it for so long, when I quit doing that, it took me a little while to realize that I was missing that adrenaline rush. And thankfully, I had a neighbor who had this really unruly dog, and he's like, "Come mess with him anytime." So I would just go over there and play with him. He enjoyed it.
Did you get to learn all about the dog? I mean,
Oh yeah.
could you just look at a dog and tell if you're going to have problems with it or
Yeah.
not?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's how I would teach people. Like as I walk up to a gate, I can tell you whether or not I can go in on a dog. And I mean, even pits, it didn't matter what it is. I could read them. I could tell if they would step back. All I had to see was one paw step back. I knew that dog would let me in. And there were times early on. At one point, my wife made me stop telling her about my day. She was like, "I love you, but I can't handle it knowing what your day's like. Don't tell me what happens." Because I mean, we were dealing with people with guns, and shootings would take place while we were out in neighborhoods, and
Jesus.
all kinds of stuff. But with the dogs, I remember the first time I almost got ate up. I got in a backyard. There were no dogs. I ran around to the side. The meter was on the opposite side of the house. And I heard the dogs come outside while I was over there. And I had to go all the way around because they had a really high fence. I could climb it, but I didn't know how fast the dogs were going to come. And you try to run from a dog and turn your back, you're going to get bit. So I was just preparing for the standoff, and there were 3 of them. And so it was just this constant back and forth of they'd lunge at me and I'd act like I'd lunging at them, and going back and forth while I had my back against the house and worked my way around. I got to the gate and got out, and I walked down the driveway, which was short, to the road, and my legs gave. And I had to sit down on the curb, and I called my wife, and I was like, I just about got ate up. And she was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah."
Now, was this before or after she told you to stop telling her about it?
This was before. Yeah, this was when this was like one of my first routes on my own when I didn't have a trainer with me.
You know what? I've got to interrupt you. I'm seeing a bunch going off there. Is Alexander here? Who did that? Looks like somebody gave a lot of, it's Carlos Diaz. It looked like there was a lot of them. They keep popping up. That's why. Carlos, my friend, thank you so much for the 5 Rico Stand memberships. I really do appreciate that. And they just kept popping up over and over again. So it looked like there was more of them. So Carlos, thanks very much. I do appreciate that. And it's good to see you. Okay. Sorry about that. When they come up like that, I like to address them, because otherwise I forget. And then I never say thank you to the people that are supporting me like that. How did you fall into the meter reading job? I mean, did you see an ad in the paper, or how did you fall into doing that?
Yeah. So at the time, my pastor was the manager.
Sorry, let me interrupt you again.
Yep.
You did. You went, so.
It's a thing. It's a regional thing. It's okay. I accept it a little bit more now that, somebody so popular as Nate Bargatze does it in his.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's all right. It's my thing too. I did it before I knew he did it. Yeah. So he actually was the director over that, and he had done it all his life. And so I'd always heard these stories of him doing it and everything. So when I was looking for, I did it again. When I was looking for a full-time job, while I was taking a break from college. He said, come on down and I'll get you reading meters. So that's how I did it. I worked with a lot of people I knew there. And it was a lot of fun. We had a good group. I had another guy that I hired in with, and we were paired together. So once we got off on our own, we shared a truck. And a lot of times, when you're doing city routes, one person would have the truck, they go park it, and the other person would be dropped off. And so I would be left out. I'd be dropped off on my own out in the middle of an area of town to walk back to the truck, and then I'd go pick him up when I got done. And so we worked together a lot, and kind of like a little brotherhood there. And one of my best friends worked there too, so it was cool.
Gotcha. Excuse me. So in that same vein, let's talk about some of the other things that you did. Why don't you go back to the very beginning and your very, very first job that you had, that even if it was under the table, I mean, paper route or something like that, what was the very first thing you did? And sort of, you don't have to hit every job, but if there's unless you've only got a few.
I do have a rule. My dad always told me you need to work a job 2 years before you quit, just to make sure that, you're sure, and that you've given them enough time. So that's always been kind of my thing. So, but I do have this track record of every 2 years until one point in my life. But my very first job, I would say, was working for my dad and my grandfather. They're carpenters. And I was a grunt on the job site from the age of like 12 or 13. I did a lot of roofing, a lot of carrying shingles up and down ladders. Not a lot of building. I was more the one that was holding stuff or carrying things or mixing concrete, things like that. So I did a lot of that during the summer. I would consider that my first job. It was really more for me. It was my parents are divorced, so it was an opportunity for me to spend time with my dad and my grandfather, because if my dad had to work on the weekends, so sometimes when I'd go there on the weekend, he'd take and drop me off at my grandmother's house like 4 a.m. During the summer, I'd go work with him, and I'd get to spend more time with them. So it was fun for me. Is where I got my taste for coffee. And then because you get up early, go to a job site, you got to have coffee.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this story because this is a story that I tell people anytime they see me drinking black coffee, because nobody drinks black coffee anymore.
No.
And but I do. We were roofing this. We had this big project we were roofing. Lightning had struck this church and had blown lightning out the back end of it. So we had to tear the roof off, repair it, put a new roof on. And so it was the second day. It was in July or August, which gets really humid and hot around here. It was the second day on the roof. What that meant was we were there before the sun came up. When it got bright enough to see what we were doing, we got to work. When there was not a steady drip, but a stream of sweat coming off my grandfather's nose, he'd tell us we could come off the roof. And we would go pass out for a few hours in the shade at the house, have dinner, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we would go back and work for a few hours until it got so dark we couldn't work anymore. So second day of this, I'm beat. I'm just, I'm sure there's laws in place where you can't do this to your child, but I'm just completely beat. We're sitting there in the truck waiting for the sun to come up, and I'm dozing off, and Dad's got his big green Stanley thermos with coffee in it, and he's drinking a cup of coffee. And I told him, I was like, hey, why don't you let me have some of that if it'll help? And he was like, yeah, sure. So he reached under and got a styrofoam cup out from underneath the seat. He's a carpenter, and poured me a cup of coffee and gave it to me. And, I kind of looked at it and smelled it and took a drink. And I was like, oh man, this is something. I said, Dad, Mom puts sugar packets and a little bit of this like powder stuff in her coffee. Do you have any of that? And he looked over at me and he said, son, if you're going to drink coffee on the job site with your father, you're going to drink it black. And I, every now and then I'll put something in my coffee. I call that dessert. Yeah. But typically coffee is black for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I did that as well, not with my father-in-law though. We did side jobs, but our main job was finishing. So we were indoors, but it was still Arizona, still, houses. Yeah. We were in the shade, but it's 110 degrees out, We would go in the same exact thing. We go in at 5 o'clock in the morning, sun's up, we start working, and we'd work till 1 in the afternoon because then it's just too hot. Yeah. And we would, a little bit different though, it wasn't coffee. He was a big beer drinker. Uh-huh. So we would both of us would go get a case of beer, drink a case of beer, and then go to the side job.
Yeah.
Which was on a roof usually. Right. I mean, we did a lot of roof stuff. So we're up on a roof. It's still 100 degrees out. I had a case of beer and I'm swinging a hammer, Yeah. Probably not the smartest, but
pushed you through it though.
Yeah. But same. Yeah. So we have that in common though. I mean, it's at least and I did that I did that in between. We were leaving Arizona and moving to New York. I had a contract with an IT company that ran out about a year before we were ready to move. And I didn't want to sign another one. Right. So I did that for a year, but I've done it off and on too. As a stucco hottie, I've done a lot of that kind of work as well. So I know exactly what to do.
That sanding, that stuck, or not stuck. I'm thinking of drywall. Never mind.
Oh no, the stucco hotties are the guy who they mix up the mud for stucco. Like sometimes it's a machine where it's got a big hose that goes into the a pit and sucks the mud up, and they shoot it on the stuff like swim pools and things. But other times I'd mix the mud up. There's like lime and all this stuff, and I don't even remember what was in it, sand and lime and whatever it was. And we'd mix it up in a pit, put it into a wheelbarrow, and then take that up the scaffolding. There would be a plank, and we would push that up the scaffolding to get up to the guys that are putting the stucco on the walls. They've got a pallet, and they're putting stucco up on the walls. So that was tough. So that was your
heat. That is tough. Yeah.
I
would consider that my first job. My first school job. My first part-time school job was a grocery store, and I worked one day, I worked 2 days, and then they changed my schedule. It was during the summer. They changed my schedule. I was going to the lake, and they put me on, and I was like, I that wasn't there. I won't be here. I'm busy. And they were like, well, we need you to be here. And I was like, all right, so I'm not coming in. What does that mean? And that was it. And then I got a job at a movie theater, and I worked at the movie theater. I think that was when my dad had that talk with me, give a job 2 years.
Yeah.
I worked at a movie theater through most of high school, and that was a good time. It was a small movie theater. Like, I'm in the town that Regal comes from. You know, Regal's from Knoxville, Regal
Yep.
Cinemas. But
Yep.
it's like the lone non-Regal at that time in Knoxville. So
Gotcha.
everybody thought we were Regal. But we were just a mom and pop owned. What's funny is the people that owned it were actually related to me by my stepfather, and they didn't know it while I was there. And so
That was
at one point they found out who I was, and they were like, you're related to us. And I was like, I know. But that
um,
was fun. That was about the
you,
time I was there when Spider-Man came out. So
oh,
those
okay.
years. Yep.
I mean, to me, that doesn't even seem like that. I mean, that seems like it was just a couple years ago. I know
It
it's longer,
does.
but and there you
Yeah.
have something in common with Ed because he's worked at a movie theater for a very long time. So,
Yep.
and Sean Peck, who currently works for Regal, right?
Yep.
Or he
That's
did.
right.
He still does, I believe. I think he
Yeah.
still does.
Mhm.
Yeah. Never worked at a movie theater, but always wanted to. I always thought when I was a little kid, not little,
Yeah.
but when I was a young man, I always thought that would be the coolest job. You know, just because I love movies. That was the
Yep.
height of my day would be in the summertime going to the movies. You know.
Yeah. Well, I grew up because of the family, even though they didn't know who I was. I grew up getting to go to the movies for free. My stepdad would call his aunt, and she'd tell him at the box. So the people who I was related to never saw me. It was the people that worked there.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
would get to go up and stay up in the loft. They had this loft room to watch movies, and I got to do that. So I grew up going and watching movies. My dad, a big part of our weekends when he would get me is we'd go to the grocery store because he didn't have any groceries. We'd go to the grocery store, and then we would go to the video movies to go and pick out a few movies to watch. And we'd stay up all night Friday night when he didn't work. If he did work, it was Saturday night watching movies. And so I've always loved movies. I loved working at the theater. It was a great time. I worked the Thursday night shift, which I worked pre-digital, so we still received film. And so the movie would come in, or the movies, because they always come in on Thursday, would come in these big cases, these big metal cases, and we would have to break that down and put it together on a platter. And the movies would be in this big, like 4 foot spool up at the projector, and would run through the projector and everything. So on Thursday night, my job was to put up the signs. So I'd be on the side of the building putting up the marquee on a ladder, and that was my job on Thursday night. And then when I got done, we had the option of previewing all of the new movies
Oh,
to
nice.
make sure all the splices and everything were good, and so that we were able to give suggestions and answer questions about movies.
Gotcha.
So I would work till like 3 in the morning on Thursday nights, and then go to high school on Friday. And I won't lie, we had a few parties and stuff too at the theater. I've got some antics that took place, that some pretty good stories
Gotcha.
of like Spider-Man. The reason why I'll never forget that one. We planned a private viewing of it on Thursday night with some friends, and when I say some friends, I mean like a good chunk of our class. Um, and the owner planned one too and didn't tell us.
Oh,
And so we had that like classic sitcom situation where we find out that night, he or the night before, he tells us where, like, we had our normal vest and bow tie and stuff, and then we had the dress up clothes that he had us wear when we would do events, because he was a politician. So we would do events a lot of times too. And so we had to wear, he told us, wear your good clothes because I'm doing an after hours viewing of that movie. And we were like, you are? And this was, cell phones were a thing, but kids didn't really have them yet, right?
gotcha.
So I mean, we had the ability. We had to spread the word at school that day that everybody had to park at a local restaurant and walk over to a back door, because this theater had 7 different theaters, and so we had to get everybody to come in the back to watch the movie with us while running a movie for the owner and his friends, and not allowing people to see each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was interesting.
Did it work? I mean, did you make it through the night? Did he ever find out?
He let us know that he found out, but he called the manager who wasn't there and told the manager what was going on, and told him that he had to discipline us, but that it didn't have to be a big deal. So we did get in some trouble, but it wasn't. I didn't think he found out until the next day when when the manager called us in. He's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, good try.
Don't do that.
Don't do that."
I bet you. What about movie posters? Did you have Did you bring those home? Did you have a big collection of those?
The manager was a huge movie poster buff, so no,
Gotcha.
he took all of them.
Really? That's come on. Share. You got
Yeah,
to share it a little bit.
I mean, I'm sure there were some that he didn't care about that I could have gotten,
Yeah.
but I never did. Never got
See,
any.
when I was a kid, and I'm thinking like 19 when Star Wars came out at the Dollar Theater over the summer. So Star Wars came in 76, 77. So it had to be like
77,
78.
78, yeah.
You could go up to the person and say, "Hey, has anybody claimed the poster yet?" And they would look on the back of it, and if there was no name, they would write your name there. And I got posters all the time from that. It was so cool. So I had one place I went all the time, and I had a huge collection of movie posters because of that. So
yeah, we were told to always tell people they were taken.
and he took almost all of them, huh?
Yeah, I remember he had a huge collection in his office, and of
I
course
don't
some
like
went
him.
home.
I don't like him. Not one bit.
And I'm sure he sold some of them too. I mean,
Sure.
I would imagine. I don't know. I don't even know if Jack's still around, but Jack, if you happen to be watching this, we know you took all the posters.
You should have at least, shared the money that you got from him or something.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh,
Just because you're
not
the
with
manager.
us. Not with us.
You were peons.
Yeah, we were those people. I mean, it was fun working for Jack. He wasn't like difficult he was very easy to work for. He didn't care. As long as we got everything done, he didn't know what happened. All of our hijinks, all of our games,
Yeah.
whatever we had going on, he didn't care as long as it didn't interfere and he didn't get a call from the owner.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha.
or a complaint from a customer.
So what other types what'd you do after that? What is there any other fun ones that you had? Again, you don't have to go through them all if you don't want to. We still got plenty of time. We're barely halfway through the first section.
Yeah. So before I graduated high school, I got my first sales job. And that was at Sears and Roebuck in one of our local malls. I had a buddy that I literally grew up with. We had the same babysitter. We went through school together. We were brothers. And he worked there, and he talked me. Well, I'm not going to say he talked me into it. He was talking so great about it that I was like, oh, I ought to do that. And so, I got this job. He was on vacation when I got it. So I had to come in and do all my training and everything without him. But I worked in electronics, small electronics, because they didn't let us do TVs and stuff, but it was full commission. I was not paid hourly. I was paid based on what I sold.
Jeez.
And it was a guaranteed minimum wage, though, and it was called draw commission. If you've never heard of it, they would pay me minimum wage, and they would or my commission. And if I made my commission, I made that. If I pulled the minimum wage, the next time I made commission, I paid it back. And so they made sure you always had a check, but you were still only ever getting paid your commission. And for someone in high school, I made a lot of money. I was pretty good at it. And I was a little bit of a tech nerd. So, and I worked in the video game section of Sears with a bunch of friends, and stereos, DVDs. I was there when Blu-ray and flat screens.
Okay, so this isn't super long ago then. What systems were out around that time? Game systems.
Yeah, so we had the was it the Dreamcast?
Yeah.
The Sega Dreamcast. What was before the Dreamcast?
The N64 was before,
the N64
right?
was out. I was there at the PS2 launch.
Okay.
I got a PS2 the day it came out. We did pre-orders on those. Sony had an incredible commission on it. It was 10%. I made $30 every time I sold one of those.
Wow.
I have no idea why they paid us that much, but that's what they paid. And I had sold a number of them. So I had the money to buy one, but we had pre-sold all of them. And when I say pre-sale, it wasn't really, they're called rain checks now, but nobody gave us money, but you only had it for the day. You had to show up before the end of the day. And I had one of mine not show up. And the guy in the security, I called him and I was like, hey, look, this person doesn't show up. I want to buy this. And so he rang me up, and I I had it, and I had to run out into the mall to the game store because we didn't get any games with it, and pick up Madden 2001. And so I went and got that and got back, bought my system, and everybody at work went home with me to play, except for the security guy. He had, of course, had to stay until everything was closed, but he was going to come over. And I get home, and I had a cell
Oh
phone at this
no.
point. I get
Oh
home and
no.
he calls me,
Yep.
and he says, "Hey, don't open that." And I was like, "Oh no, why?" He said, "Man, they're selling online. eBay was a thing at this point. They're selling
Oh.
online for $700 and $800. Don't open that thing." He's like,
Oh, okay.
you can't sell that. We got to put this online and make money off of it." Um, and so I got home, and I'm sitting there staring at this box with a video game next to it, and I'm like, I didn't pay anything for it. Remember, it was all commissions. And I'm like, I can either play Madden with my friends or I can make $800. I was I was a teenager. I was in high school. We played Madden. Absolutely played Madden. I had a first gen PS2.
Nice. I like that. I like it. Not, the money, the experience is better.
Oh yeah.
I like the Dreamcast because it was very easy to, well, we had all the games for free. We'll just
Right.
leave it at that. The Dreamcast
Right.
was very
Well,
easy in that regard.
I was working there when Seaman came out. Do you remember Seaman? Was that Dreamcast or was that the one before it?
Seaman.
Yeah, it was the Sea
What a
Monkey
name.
game, and it had like the whole marketing and everything was.
Seaman.
But they called it the Sega rep called it Seaman. And that whole sit down and selling of that game, I was like, we can't do this. We're Sears. And that whole thing was odd. And they had posters up everywhere. And we were high schoolers, and we were
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
we couldn't keep a straight face during the whole
I,
thing.
I have to say, though, I do believe that's the first time anybody's ever said to me, "Do you remember Seaman?" I mean, I am old, but I'm not that old. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever said that to me in my life before.
They pulled it from the display immediately after
Yeah.
the store manager saw it, and because it was like we had to have it on.
I
It was
don't remember the
playing on
game.
the system.
Yeah.
It was a forgetful game. I remember it because of the controversy in our store. We were like, we can't put this out there.
Hey, you want to play Seaman?
So, but I mean, seriously, it was one of those things where that was like the pull of the game. They were doing that on
Yeah.
purpose. It was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
horrible game. It was just controversial. Everybody's going to look it up. It is SEAMAN. So it's like sea monkeys.
I don't remember it. I don't remember it at all. Yeah.
I remember playing a lot of. It was a boxing game that came out on the Sega. It was huge. Was it Knockout? That's a Nintendo game, isn't it?
Was it the Mike Tyson one?
Ready to Rumble. Ready to Rumble was huge at that time, and we played tournaments there at the store. We would have people from other departments come in to play that game with us, and we had a good time. The security guy used to work in my department. He's the one who trained me, and so we networked all the computers, and we were playing Doom. All networked together, playing Doom in the store. When it was slow, because you would have the build up for Christmas, and then
Sure.
January would be all returns, and then February would be dead. There'd be nothing
Yeah.
going on. I'm making $5 an hour, $5 and some change, and I have to pay it back. So we didn't do anything in February. We just goofed off.
Gotcha.
Actually, February, me and that friend, we were there one February, and he was playing Ready to Rumble. He was playing Ready to Rumble, and I was leaned up against the register, and we were talking, and something was said about the 14th. And he goes, "What day did you say it was?" And I was like, "It's the 14th." He goes, "Dude, it's Valentine's Day." And the store was dead. There was nobody there. So he and I both jetted to Hallmark because we had to go get something, right, for our girlfriends. And we go to Hallmark, and can you imagine at the end of the day on Valentine's Day at a Hallmark what it's like?
Just a bunch of frantic-looking men looking for something.
Over an hour to grab something and get out of there. And we walk back into the store from the mall, and we hear, our names over the intercom from the store manager. Please return to your department. And this girl who worked, there was Children's was at the entrance there from the store, and so there was a girl there that knew us, and she was like, "You guys are in trouble." She's like, "Steve's been there calling for you for a while now."
Oh.
And so we literally crawled on our bellies through the appliance section on this in the ovens and the refrigerators. The refrigerators we didn't have to crawl, but the ovens we crawled. And we saw him there tapping his foot. And there was this one woman and her son, and they were waiting on us in the games area. And so we came in like we came from the back. And we were like, "Well, we didn't hear you. We were in the back. I don't know what you're talking about, Steve." And he was like, "See me before you leave today." And because I mean, we stuffed our Hallmark bags in an oven. But yeah, it was stuff like that. I mean, it was like Saved by the Bell type stories at
Did you
the Sears.
did you get fired or
No,
he
we
just
were good employees.
yeah.
We just had a little too much fun. We really enjoyed the intercom system. We played a lot of pranks on
Yeah.
people around the store with the intercoms. We were well known.
Like what? Can you think of one? Can you
Oh
remember
yeah,
one of them?
so there was a way that I could call into one of the internal phones and then transfer it to the intercom. That was a big one. We did that a lot. And we would start a conversation with the person, just like something off the wall, complaining about Craftsman tools or something. And then when they really get heated and going back with us, transfer it over to the intercom. Yeah, stuff like that. And we would call and ask them to go check for something in the back stock, and then go mess stuff up, down at their area and change things. And yeah, we had a good time. And the people on the camera were our friends, so they didn't care.
Gotcha. We did that too. Very young, working at fast food places, working on the headset. We used to use. Yeah, you were supposed to say, "Welcome to Carl's Jr." It was in Arizona.
Yeah.
May I take your order, please? And we used to always say, "May I take your daughter, please?" But my one friend Jeremy always spoke a little slower, and he would really enunciate. So we're all like, "Welcome to Carl's Jr. May I have your daughter, please? Have your daughter. May I have your daughter?
Yeah.
Have your daughter, please." And nobody ever noticed. But Jeremy was like, "Welcome to Carl's Jr. May I have your daughter, please?" I'm like, dude, you can't do it that way, man. That's not how you do it.
Yeah.
He got in trouble a couple of times.
A few times.
So, not to change the subject too much, but you talked a lot about your dad and stuff. Do you still have a good relationship with your dad today? Is he still around with us? Is he?
Yeah, he is. We have a fairly good relationship. It's not like, honestly, it's not like what I would want. Just we stay busy. It's one of those things that we've tried to work on here in the last few years. He has moved recently closer to where I live, and we're trying to work on that. But we have a good relationship. It's just we're not together as nearly as much as I would like.
Gotcha. And what about you? So you live with your mom?
No, we live next door. I got the Raymond thing going on.
So
everybody loves Raymond.
Growing
up.
Yeah, growing up.
I did live with my mom. Yes. Now I live next door to her.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask that too. Do you still live in the same area as when you grew up, and very close then?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Was not the case when we got married. My wife and I, we got our own place, and it was a small condo. It was all we could afford, but it was ours, right? We weren't renting. It was a pretty good deal. When we started having kids, we very quickly ran out of room, and the market was just toast in the area. We were trying to get out of it, and we couldn't. I couldn't get any money back out of selling the condo. And the market turned here a few years back. I guess it's been about 4 or 5 years now. And I found out that I could get my money and some out of my condo. And we were looking at selling it. And that was when my stepdad came to us and was like, "We have the house next door that we rent out. The people who rent it have told us they're moving. We don't want to rent it anymore. Do you want to buy it?" And I said, "No, thank you. I don't want to buy it. I appreciate it." And that was the end of that conversation.
Because it was too close, or
why?
Yeah.
I didn't go on vacations with my family. I said that earlier. I hated vacations. I'm very much a to myself type individual, and yeah, it was not something I was interested in when they left. My wife was like, "Are you sure we shouldn't think about that?" I was like, "Yep, we shouldn't think about that." And I went on, and she was like, "Okay, if you're sure." And I was like, oh, "She's right." And it was a really good deal, a really good price. And it's the house. It's the house I lived in last before I moved out, because they lived here before they bought the house next door and moved over there. Um, but yeah, so we're next door now, and it's interesting. I was just like I'd said with my son. I'd figured out I needed to be a better son, and that was something that I was already thinking about. And my wife was like, you did say this, and that might make it a little easier. I was like, oh, but we did it, and we're next door, and it's been good. It's been good for us. The girls have their own room,
Yeah,
which before they didn't have their own rooms, and we've got quite a bit more space. We have a yard, which we didn't have at the condo.
yeah, yeah. Uh, and what about the stepdad too? You decent relationship there? Is it get along
Better
fine with stepdad?
now, better now. Wasn't as a kid. We had a rough
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
We didn't get
yeah.
along.
That's got to be hard on everybody, though. I've never been in that situation myself, either with stepkids or having a stepfather or mother. But I can't imagine it's very easy on either group, because this new person comes in your life that you don't have any choice. You have no
Yeah,
choice. It's new. It's not somebody you were born to. So yeah, it's got to be tough.
yeah. It is. I was 2 when my parents divorced, so I was really young. They had been married for almost 10 years, but I was 2 when they divorced, and my mom remarried. I think a couple years later, and I adored my father's always been like my hero. I've always adored my father growing up, and so I didn't do well with it, and
Gotcha.
I was
Yeah.
not easygoing, and he had a temper, so we clashed a lot. And yeah, I was out as soon as I could, but we have a great relationship. He's good to my girls; they love him, and
Yeah.
I love him. I mean, he's a great man. I just
Gotcha.
we had our issues growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. But you got through them.
We did.
Single kid. Then you sound like you don't have any brothers or sisters.
Well, there's a reason for that. I didn't for a very long time, but now I'm one of 7. So
Holy.
yeah, yeah,
From stepdad or where? How did that happen?
everything. Yeah. So
Everything.
everything.
It's raining kids. They're just coming in
Yeah.
all over the place.
So my dad really took to single life, and I have a lot of siblings from my dad.
Oh,
And yeah,
okay.
now he did get remarried. I joke about it. I give him a hard time about it, but he did get remarried. I was much older, and so he has one other besides me, one other son, and then got remarried, and she had 3, and then they had one together. So I have 3 step siblings and 2 half um, uh, sister and brother, and then my mom and stepdad had one more.
Okay. Wow.
And yeah, so there's a lot of us, and I did have a long time where I was an only child, but then I also had to share everything with all these kids.
Gotcha. Yeah, and do you have good relationships with all those people now? Those
Some of
people.
them, some
Some
of
of them.
them, yeah, yeah, some of them,
Yeah. That's got to be hard too, man. My wife is sort of in the same type of situation. Her biological father left them when she was
Mhm.
4, I think. He just left. He just ghosted her mom, just left.
Yeah,
They didn't even know what happened to him or anything for the longest time. Um, well, he got married. Years later, they had 3 kids, and his new wife did that to him, and he was left with the 3 kids.
yeah,
So, it came back around. It came back
right.
around on him. Karma really smacked him.
Yeah,
And
my youngest sister, when my freshman year of college, so straight out of high school, freshman year of college, she started kindergarten. That's how big of a difference there is. So we're
got you.
quite a bit of difference there.
Yeah. 10 years with my sister. Not that far, not as far as you, it sounds
Yeah,
like, but yeah, I'm 10 years with my brother's only 17 months older than me, and my sister's 10 years younger than me.
yeah.
So it's
My
quite a difference.
my brother that I grew up in the same house with, we're 10 years. We're right at 10 years apart.
Gotcha. So, and you probably get along good with him. That's a big space. I mean, you probably didn't have a lot in common with him with 10 years, but
yeah, he was fun when I was little. And then when I got to be a teenager, he was 10 years younger. So he wasn't a lot of help with the ladies, and, I had to take him places. You were talking about Star Wars earlier. I was not into Star Wars growing up. And I had to take him to see, I think it was The Phantom Menace. And like that solidified it for me. I did not like Star Wars for the longest time. I do now. Funny story. Okay. I do now. But back then I didn't care for it at all. And, but my dad did like Star Wars. What was funny. He bought me all kinds of Star Wars toys because I was born in 82. So I'm like, I miss Star Wars, right? 83 was Return of the Jedi. So by the time I was old enough, I had Ewok movies.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what everybody was so excited about. I mean, I did like Indiana Jones, but not the Ewok movies. I say that I actually do have an affinity for the second one from my childhood, but I did have a lot of Star Wars toys that I never played with, and at some point they ended up in a yard sale, and I really regret that.
yeah, especially those originals. I have where's he at? I have Chewbacca over here somewhere.
I wanted to name the dog Chewie when we got him, and he looks like a Chewie too.
He
got
does.
The same colors. Yeah. Well, they have that steel gray, which is a lot of where his colors come from. Funny story that connects to something else that I'm a fan of. The character Chewbacca, Chewie, came from Terry McGovern's dog's name was Chewie, and Terry McGovern's the voice of Launchpad McQuack from DuckTales, and he's actually one of the stormtroopers' voices in A New Hope. But that's where that name comes from, and so I've always had an affinity for it because of that. I grew up on DuckTales,
gotcha,
so.
Yeah.
But Chewie comes from his dog's name because George Lucas saw Terry McGovern pull up with his dog in the passenger seat, and he was like, "That's a good idea for a character," and that's where it comes from.
That's awesome. I never do that. Yep. I never do that.
The stormtrooper that goes, "Move along, move along," those aren't the droids we're looking for.
Yeah,
that's Terry McGovern.
Gotcha.
Super nice guy. Super nice guy.
You've met him? Comic Cons and such, or?
I have not had the pleasure of meeting him in person. I've spoken with him though several times.
Okay. Through your podcast, which yes. I did not know about the podcast. You know what? Again, we're shifting gears like crazy, but tell us a little bit about your podcast too that you've been doing for 5 years.
Yeah. So 2017. Well, let's back up. I grew up in the 90s, right? DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, Tailspin. The Disney afternoon was my jam as a kid. I was a latchkey kid, so coming home, catching those shows, having, being able to watch that was a big deal for me. When I got older and had kids and I was trying to watch some of the stuff they wanted to watch, I was like, I can't do this. And I went and picked up the DVDs of all the shows that I enjoyed growing up, and we watched them like crazy. My kids are huge fans of the Disney afternoon too. We really got into a video game called Disney Infinity when it came out, and we had a real affinity for it. And when I met some people online who played that game, because if you didn't know about the game, it had this whole mechanic where you could build your own games in the game using Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel characters. And so there was this huge online community of people who were working on it. And so I met some people in there and we became good friends. And we all were like, Darkwing Duck, so awesome. We love Darkwing Duck. And we would talk about this stuff all the time while playing video games together and all of this stuff. And our kids, we were talking about it with our kids. And when DuckTales, when they did a reboot of DuckTales 2017, we were excited about it. And we were like, you know what, let's just start recording this and put it out there and have fun with it. And that's literally where it came from. And we called it Duck Talks, which really, I mean, I don't know how nobody else got a hold of that. It was perfect. We started a website. I mean, it was literally just to keep up with our notes. And we would post blogs that were literally our show notes that we would talk about on our weekly podcast. And it took off. What people don't realize is Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck are rock stars in Europe. We're talking, Uncle Scrooge is the longest running comic book in the world. And my understanding, I've never been, but if you get off an airplane in Italy or in Germany or in Norway, you find Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge comics in the magazine section. Like everybody reads it. It's a grown-up thing. It's not a kid thing. I mean, it is a kid thing, but everybody. And so it just took off and became massive. To my standards, it's massive. I mean, our social media is thousands and thousands of followers, and we recently broke a story that made like international news. But with this, I've been able to meet a lot of my heroes, my childhood heroes. Tad Stones created Darkwing Duck and Chippendale Rescue Rangers. I've spoken with him. Like, I've had amazing conversations with him, both interviews and just conversations, just talking with him. I've got to meet him a few times. He's a super individual. I've got to meet Don Rosa a few times, who is one of my favorite artists and writers of all times. He's a great guy. He's a little rough around the collar, but he's a great guy. And I mean, he wrote comics in the 90s, and he's just got so many great stories. I got to do some amazing things with Duck Talks that I never imagined I would be able to do. I interviewed I'm blanking on it. What's a Broadway award winner?
Tony
Award winner, actor. Yeah. James Monroe Iglehart, who was the genie in Disney's Broadway Aladdin. And he was in Hamilton right before COVID. Like, he was doing Jefferson when COVID happened. But I got to interview him over a role that he did on DuckTales, and we were literally this close to having an interview with Hamilton. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. I'm having a moment. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's a character, who voices a character in DuckTales 2017. But him and James are like tight. Like, him and James were talking about our show, like not that they both listened to it, but that James was going to be on our show. And I was like, we'd love to talk with Lynn, and but it almost happened. I feel like it was going to happen. Yeah. But yeah, we got in real tight with the crew on that show. And we got to interview the co-producer of the show. He told us, he was like, listen, I find out about stuff about my show from your website and your podcast. Because Disney doesn't tell them, when information is going to be out there. He found out when information was out there from us. Yeah, it was a wild ride. I mean, that's over. DuckTales is over, and we've really struggled to do anything with it. There's been rumors of stuff that's supposed to happen. Yeah. And so I had a little bit of a history online and on the internet. Yeah. So we had played around with YouTube a little bit with Duck Talks. And
who's we? You're saying we a lot.
Yeah.
Is it Tanner too? Was he involved with that?
No, it's not Tanner. Oh, okay. Okay. Tanner didn't know how nerdy I was until one night when it got brought up on our live stream. Okay. No, I've got two buddies that I met playing Disney Infinity, and we played video games together. One of them's in Orlando, so he's there, near Walt Disney World, and the other one's in California. He's like 30 minutes from Anaheim, so he's Disneyland, and we do the show together and the website and all of that together.
Okay. Nobody that we knew or anything. For some reason, I was assuming there was somebody that we maybe knew. No. So that's got to be pretty disheartening, though, because you've put a lot of your life, a lot of your hobby part of your life into this, and got obviously so much joy from it. You spent so much time on it, and just to have that gone like that's got to be disheartening. So
it is. It was very tough. And go ahead.
Do you think when that sort of all wound down, is that what sort of pushed you over to doing the YouTube fish stuff?
It was.
You still needed that outlet.
I needed that outlet. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So when with Duck Talks, I was telling you before, I've told you before, I get invited to Comic Cons and comic conventions to cover it as media. I get media passes to a few shows. Not like I've never been to New York or San Diego. My partners have. They take those because I'd have to pay for the flight. But I've had instances like that. But my kids, it's just been crazy how much my kids have been able to enjoy it. We were one of the guys is in Orlando, and so we were meeting up with him and his family at Hollywood Studios. And the Star Wars area had just opened, Batu, Galaxy's Edge. And we were headed over there, and we're walking in with our kids, and a cast member stops, and he like looks us in the eye, and we're like, what's going on? And he walks up, he goes, are you guys Duck Talks? And we were like, yeah. And our kids are just blown, like wait, there's a guy here. There's a guy in Star Wars who knows our dads. And so he's like, I'm a huge fan of the show. And, you know, I've talked with you online. And so we took a selfie, which he's not allowed to do. Right. And we took a selfie and stuff and went on. But our kids were just like, wait a minute, are you famous? It's like, no, I'm not famous. He's just, you know, he enjoys the things we enjoy. And, you know, we make sure he gets news and stuff. And so he appreciates that. But, you know, and then Jim Cummings, a lot of people may know Jim Cummings. He knew us, and my daughter got to experience that. And also Jason Marsden. My daughter is a huge Jason Marsden fan. And when we went and met him, like I had met him before, but when she got to meet him with me, and he was like, hey, Mitch, how's it going? And we started talking, and she goes, you really know Binks? Because he was in Hocus Pocus. It's like, yeah, I told you I did. Yeah. But yeah, we've got to have some really cool experiences like that. And we still do. Those things still happen. But not having
I'm sorry, I got to interrupt you again, so these don't go away. Our friend Killer Kitty dropped. She actually dropped 2 super chats, $10 one, and another one says, "Love you all, so happy I can lurk and listen on these 2 amazing men." And I just wanted to hit that before. If I don't get to them, they go away, and I don't get to see them, and I hate not saying thank you to people. So I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got to do that when I pop up.
I understand. Okay. That was Killer Kitty, right?
Killer Kitty, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Killer Kitty. We appreciate it.
So often she does that for a lot of different people, lots of that type of support. And, you know, just really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, so you were talking. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. We got past James Mars. How old is your daughter? You've got 2.
So I've got 2. Yeah, they're 12 and 10.
Okay. So, and is it the 12-year-old who really likes James Marsden, or?
Yeah. Okay. The first time so he was the voice of Max Goof in a Goofy movie, and we kind of consider that part of the Disney afternoon. And so my girls grew up singing the soundtrack, like that's constantly played in our house and in our cars. But anyway, I met him several years ago. He was supposed to be on DuckTales, and there's a story behind that I can't share. He was supposed to be in DuckTales. I wanted to interview him. He was like, sorry, I can't do that, you know, NDAs and all of that. And I was like, I don't want to talk to you about DuckTales. I want to talk to you about Goofy movies. So we talked about it over and over again. But when I did get to sit down with him and talk with him, my daughters would not watch Hocus Pocus because they don't like anything remotely scary. And I was like, I can't get them past that opening scene. He's like, I understand. That next October, I was like, I think you girls are ready for this. Let's try it. I'll skip the first scene. It's the worst part of the movie. It's the most scary part of the movie. And I think you'll love it. And they did, to the point that it's like a Barney video cassette. It played all the time, all year. Yeah. And, which was cool. I mean, I love it when they get into something like that. And, so she became a huge fan of his, from that and a Goofy movie and a few other things that he's done. You know, he is everybody's best friend from TGIF. He literally played all those roles. He was everybody's best friend, which I give him a hard time about, but he's in Nashville. He's a local guy now.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. He moved from LA to Nashville several years ago. Super guy, really, really nice guy. And I've enjoyed getting to meet him a few times, but she was all starry eyed and she was like, I can't believe he knew you when you walked up. And I was like, yeah, he's a cool guy.
So my daughter is 25 and she's the same way with the Hocus Pocus movie though. She watches it nonstop still. Yeah. She's all in the Halloween is her holiday. She just loves Halloween and she goes full bore anything for Halloween. So that's how my youngest is. She maybe another 15 years from now she'll still be watching it just nonstop.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and she'll tell people, I met that guy. I met that cat.
yeah, that's awesome. Have you know what? We're already an hour into it. I better open it up to the chat. I better because we're an hour and 10 minutes in. I want to get the chat going and stuff, but there's still so much I want to talk about. And like you like a lot of the other people, I think we'll have to do a part 2 sometime in the future.
I'm up for it.
The thing is, I still have there's
I
thousands of
know
people
it.
in the fish fam, and I don't want to do part 2s until I've gotten through most of the part 1s.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
at some point we'll have to have you back. But let's go ahead. Let me jump in here now. Let me get to the bottom of the chat real quick. And again, there's Killer. Oh, there's Chattanooga Ed. What's up, Ed?
Hey, Ed.
Okay. All right. So let's start right there with Geek Boy. Thank you very much. Geek Boy pointed out. So I'm not gonna. I probably won't see your comment unless you do the @RicoStan for me, and I'll feed the questions to you, Mitch.
Okay.
There's a lot of standard ones too. I don't know if you've watched very many of the focus-ons, but there's probably close to a dozen standard questions that are asked each time, and I love that. I absolutely love that. So the very first one, and thanks Geek Boy too. So the very first one's from Black Powder, one of our friends from Australia, and he says the Myrtle question. The Myrtle question. So the Myrtle question is: do you know who Myrtle is?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think most people do, but I need to make sure. A great kid, love Myrtle. Very talented young man. Very stoic too. But anyways, his question is: what would I change about you, and what would you change about me?
Yes. All right. So I got to start.
Good, because I got nothing. I have not. The last few weeks, the last few episodes, I've really struggled to find things that I would want to change about people.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is such a tough question, except for the fact that I know that you deal with some issues with your health, and I know a lot of people that know you say that, but I always wish you the best and hope you're doing well. And if that was something I could take away and change about you, I would. Absolutely.
And
I'd give up one of my 3 wishes.
That. I appreciate that because my life is not what it used to be, and it would be awesome to get back to who I used to be. But at the same time, it's changed my outlook on being empathetic and not judging people as much, right? So there's some positives to it too, right? So what would I change about Mitch Scruffy City? I don't know, man. See,
I got this crossbite right here, and it's a pain. You could do that.
Yeah, we'll take that. We'll get that. Again, I would say the last like 7 times, the people that I've interviewed seem to be in their place. They found their place. You seem like a genuine, I can never say it. You seem like you're really happy. You seem like you've got a great relationship with your wife. You've got 2 kids you love. You've got family around you. You've got a job that maybe you don't love it, but you like it enough that you don't hate going to it, and it takes care of the family. You've got a lot of stuff lined up. You seem like you've thought things through, and man. Maybe
the dog's being a pain right now.
Maybe I got nothing.
Well, I appreciate that.
I got nothing. And I'm sure there's things in your life that you would change about yourself, but from what I can see, you don't. And that's not to say you're a perfect individual. That's not what I mean when I can't find these things.
Right.
But there's nothing
you just
that
mean
stands
I hide
out.
It well.
Maybe that's it. Maybe you're a great actor. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe. I think we all, especially in the last few years, have faced some challenges and dealt with some things. And I can say that just to be honest and open with everyone, like anxiety in the last few years has been a thing, like caught me off guard thing. Like it wasn't something like I was sitting and worrying. It was just one of those things where I started hyperventilating, didn't realize what it was. And that led to some anxiety. And so, that's something that in the last few years that I can definitely say that I've gone through, you were talking about the empathy. I totally didn't get it when other people were dealing with it before. And it's something that I was like, just be happy. Just, shrug it off and go on. That's how life
Yeah.
always was. And then I realized sometimes you can't do that, because sometimes
No.
what's happening to you is not something that you have all that much control over.
Yeah.
So
Even
I
though
would,
you realize it, even though you know that, hey, I just got to do this, doesn't matter. Your brain isn't going to let you do that.
Yep. All I got to do is breathe. If I just breathe, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Why can't I just breathe? Yeah.
All right. So I have no changes for you. You're just right the way you are. Let's see. Bunny Viper would like to know if you'd rather fly or be invisible. If you had a superpower, choose one: fly or be invisible.
I'd fly. The invisible's tempting, but I think it would tempt me in a bad way. So I'm going to say I would fly.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Flying
I've always
sounds
said
awesome.
the flying sounds way better because, first of all, you just get places, quicker. But I think with the invisibility, you would want to eavesdrop too much. And I've said this before. Your friends sometimes need to vent about you, and doesn't mean they don't like you, but sometimes they just need to. You did something to bother them a little bit, and they just need to vent. Doesn't mean they still love you; they're still your friends. But you overhear that, and now you think they hate you, and So it's just like Gollum, right? Gollum with the when he put the ring on, and everybody's talking about him.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The power of being able to be invisible, you could rule the world. You could take the power. So yeah, I don't think I could handle that. I wouldn't want it. I'd love to fly. Flying would be awesome.
Flying is the right answer for that one, Ivy. We're gonna say that. That's the right answer.
It's like the supermarket buggy thing. You can tell how evil someone is inside by whether or not they put the buggy up. If you just leave the buggy in a parking space, evil person, like you're just evil. There's nothing to do about it. That's just who you are. Because there's nobody that can do anything about it. You're just gonna leave it out there. But those of us who put it up, we're good people. I think a lot of you, if you put your buggy. Now there's some people who can't, and I understand that too.
Sure. Lady Rorschach is next up, and Lady Rorschach will be our guest this upcoming Tuesday for the Focus On. So looking forward to that. Excuse me. Something you wish that you really, really knew. Something that you were an expert on, that you could teach classes on. Is there something that you wish that you knew 100% that you were an expert?
Something I wish I were an expert on. I've studied education, right? And so that it's a passion of mine. I love learning and I love helping people learn. I think it would really be about finding purpose in life. That if I could be an expert on training people on how to find purpose, that's what it would be. I think academics are great and I believe in academics, but I think that having that ability, I think if we all have a purpose, it gives us a sense of morality, and it pushes us to do things that if we don't know how to find purpose, we just don't do things. We just nothing is done.
Yeah. Why? Why do it? I don't have a purpose. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the second part is that second part of that, excuse me, is there a book that you've read that changed your life? And it can't be Scrooge McDuck or Donald.
Why not?
Who were the three bad guys and the mom? I forgot their names. I was trying to think of the three.
Beagle Boys.
Thank you.
The Beagle Boys, Ma Beagle.
Mm-hmm. I just, for some reason, I could not remember who they were.
Yeah, I love the Beagles. Yeah. Okay, so a book that has changed. What was the question exactly?
Yeah. Is there a book that has changed your life?
Yeah. Well, I know it's taboo and we won't get into it, but I would say it's the Bible for me.
Okay.
That is a book that has changed.
That's not taboo by any means, but
no, I know.
Yeah,
I get it.
I don't want to I don't want to do a deep dive. We all have different beliefs and things, but no problem with that whatsoever. Yeah. Okay. Clicks. Hi, Clicks.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else, any other books that I would say changed my life. There's quite a few though, but they would.
I read a lot and actually changed my life. That's a tough one.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
when I was a kid, I loved Lost World, the Jurassic Park sequel. I would say that one because
yeah.
I mean, it really did give me an affinity for the behind the scenes stuff, which led into my current podcasting and even the fish tube stuff.
I thought we were friends,
You
but
didn't like Michael
you
Crichton's Lost World?
well, you kept talking about being able to eat whatever you wanted, never gaining a pound, and now you're talking about being a kid with Jurassic Park, and
I was.
I was married for the second time by, time those
Yeah.
movies came out or
Well,
the books came out.
the first one was what, 93, 94.
Yeah. I
That was
was
my
married.
first scary movie in a theater.
I was married in the 80s for the first time.
Hmm.
Anyways, so that's Clicks wants to know is if the LFS near McKay's Books is worth it.
The aquarium. Oh yeah, absolutely. Aquarium's a great store. It's been around for a very long time. The person who owns it is very involved in the fish business, and he's got multiple businesses. So his connections mean he's got an amazing store there. They've been around a long time. They've got a great location. As far as livestock goes, they've got probably one of the larger selections in the area. Aquatic Marine's catching them, I feel, but they've always had the largest store in the area. Plants, they have great plants. And if you're looking for saltwater, they've got a great saltwater section. Dry goods, they got it all. They really do. Tanner worked there. That's where I met him and didn't know it. But yeah, it's a good place. I do shop there. I actually meant to get by there today and didn't have time. I do like going in, but yeah, absolutely.
Have you done a tour of it? I feel like Sean Peck has
Sean
done a
has,
tour of
yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Sean's got a video where he went to, I think, 3 of our stores and maybe a couple of chain stores in our area. And so he shows all of them. But Aquatic Marine's grown a lot since then.
Oh, gotcha.
The people who bought it are the same people who did Aquaticon, and
Yeah,
they've really
Kenny, right?
changed that store. Kenny, yeah, that's I consider Aquatic Marine my local store. I'd have to drive past it to go to aquarium, so I'm much more likely to stop in there. And they're also an aquarium co-op partner, so
Yeah.
they carry co-op stuff, which I was pushing big when it happened. I was like, I would much rather pay you, Kenny, than to have to order and pay shipping.
Yeah, yeah. He seems like a good guy. I never met him, obviously, but
Yeah.
he's been on with James quite a bit. I've actually streamed with him as well on different channels. Him and Rob from Aquatic Aesthetics, Aquatic, the one at chat that Ed goes to.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know it. I can't think of the name of it.
And he's got the sign up there too. And how could I forget?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll
he
move
got
on.
the co-op partnership recently too, I believe.
Nice. Rob seems like a super nice guy. I've talked to him a few times. Brookley Bell, do you have any weird physical traits? And she's always very embarrassed to ask this because she knows we're a bunch of dirty people and our minds are in the gutter constantly. So, but she doesn't mean it that way. She obviously means things like,
Yeah. Weird physical traits. I can't grow a beard.
I mean,
I get it from my dad.
Yeah.
Funny story. Right. It's over here.
Yep.
You see that?
Yeah.
My dad has that, and growing up, he said it was a scar from street racing. And then when I started growing a beard, I was like, Dad, I never street raced.
That's weird. I did not know that type of thing, it would be genetic.
Apparently.
See, that's a Tennessee beard. That's a Tennessee beard.
It is. Yeah.
That's not true. I mean, look at Rob. Rob's got that, massive,
I could get a neck beard going if I wanted to, like the hillbilly beard, but that my wife doesn't appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can't grow a beard. I don't know that that's very odd. So that's not so I'm going to say no for you. You don't really have any. Here's a good one from Lady R. If Mitch could interview or meet anyone in the Disney universe, actor, director, writer, etc., who would that be? Anybody in the Disney universe? So, Marvel and everybody.
Alive or dead?
Yes. Let's say that.
All right. It would be Carl Barks. Carl Barks was an animator for Disney. He worked on not a lot. He worked on some of the older shorts. He retired and started a chicken farm. And Disney contacted him. Actually, it wasn't Disney. It was a publisher Disney was going through and asked if he wanted to do comics for them. He could ship everything from his chicken farm and do it. And he took it and he wrote, like, when a lot of people don't realize that Donald Duck is a real character. He's not just a slapstick, character on shorts. He's got some of the best stories in comics ever written, and they were written by Carl Barks. And when I say that, these stories, like Indiana Jones, all right, Raiders of the Lost Ark, a lot of stuff from that movie are from Barks comics. And Steven Spielberg has said his influence was Carl Barks. If I had a chance, I'd love to interview Carl Barks. There's a lot of stuff in media that we consider contemporary media that actually came from his stories. And these people grew up reading his stories. And so they, it's like an homage to what he did. So if I had a chance, I would love to sit down and talk with him, because he took a character that was completely slapstick with a silly voice, and he made him into an everyman character who kept going into adventures. He created Scrooge McDuck, Uncle Scrooge. I think that would be awesome. And I should have said Walt, and I'm realizing as I say this, I should have said Walt. But I think it would be Carl Barks.
Yeah. Nice. I'm not familiar with him. I'll have to look more into him. Let's see. So, hi, Zenny. This is one that's asked quite often too. And those ones from Lady R too, and Brookley, those are all like regular questions that are asked week in and week out. Absolutely love that. So Zenny says, would Mitch rather clean the duckweed and scrape the algae from 1,000 75-gallon fish tanks, or unload 1,000 of the biggest UPS trucks in August?
Oh, UPS trucks, 100%. Hey, I'd lose a lot of weight. I'd get in really good shape. And I think I could do it. What's funny about that job is at least this is how my hub did it. I hired in a couple of months before Christmas. And so they brought us in. You have to know somebody, right? You don't even get an interview unless you know somebody. And so I went in for the interview. They invited me back to the big thing, and they sit you down and they tell you all the great things about the job. And they're like, okay, we're going to take a tour of the facility. And they take you to that guy that just hired in last week and is about to die. And you go watch him struggle and then and throw up. And it's just disgusting and all this stuff. And then they walk you back up to the room they have that leads out of the building. And they have you sit on one side of the room, and they stand up and they say, all right, I'm going to be over here with your application, and we'll get you signed up and get you scheduled for, all of your training and stuff. If you can commit to me staying until February, like several months, like don't come over here if you're not going to make it past the holidays. I need you to stay at least this long. And that's what your job is. What that guy's doing, that's what you're doing. And they made us get up and walk over there. And it was a learning opportunity for me, I felt, because you don't always have to sell something as you've got to have it. This is the greatest thing. Sometimes you need to tell people it's not for everybody. But yeah. I would still unload trucks. I would do it. I've thought about doing it in the past. I mean, not even just for money, just because I needed to get back in shape.
I hear you. That honesty though is not something you always see. So that's, that honesty of, hey, this job's you're gonna be thrown up. I mean, that's
yeah. I remember one day we were unloading, and I had one of the new guys with me. His last name was Pistol. And we were unloading a truck, and it was like July or August. And he goes, oh, wow, that's interesting. And I was like, what's interesting? He goes, I quit sweating. I was like, dude, go get water.
Yeah.
Go right now. Go get water. You're going to pass out.
I like, quit sweating.
It's not normal to stop sweating right now. You need to be sweating. Your body's about to shut down. I'm going to have to pull you out of the bottom of this truck.
Sweat is important.
Yes.
We used to wear, so in Arizona, especially because it's so dry, right? It's super hot, but it's so dry. So I'd watch some of the Mexican guys, from Mexico that were construction workers, and they always wore heavy sweaters.
Yeah.
And no, because it'd be hot. It'd be 110 degrees,
Right.
but they're sweating, and that sweater would just get soaked with their own sweating, keep them cool. It's their own evaporative cooler. Yeah. So I started doing that, and it was amazing the difference that, before that I would wear like just a t-shirt or something, but an actual heavy thing that you could sweat into. Yeah. Bunny Viper says, I'd make you rich so you could do whatever hell you wanted. I think she's talking to me on that one. That was the change. And Ed, even though Ed wasn't able to do the Rico stand, I always see Ed's messages. So he said, I wish Rico had the ability to suck the blood out of a trout and feel good for 58 days, and then he would have to do it again every 58 days.
That was very specific.
Yeah. And again, I'm skipping a lot of stuff. I'm looking really just for the @Rico stand, so it pops out for me. We're down to Mountain Green. We have about a half an hour left. You need a drink or anything? You need
I've got one.
Okay. Mountain Greenery. Hello. And this is her regular one. If Mitch could live in any one of his aquariums, which would it be? So you would be something that fit in the aquarium, a little guy that, lived in there but could breathe underwater. Which one and why?
Which aquarium or which inhabitant?
Which aquarium would you live in?
Okay. So I still think I only have one aquarium. I have a 75. I also have a 25, but it's really just kind of holding over my pond. So I'd have to pick the 75.
You have a pond outside?
Well, I have a micro patio pond. So no, I have a planter that that I've made into a pond. It was an experiment last year that we really enjoyed, and I hope to put a pond in. I've been following what is Aqua? What is that company that does ponds?
Aqua Pros. Aqua.
I keep wanting to call it Aquascape. Is it
Greg Whitstock?
Yes,
Whitstock?
I've watched them for years, and I want to build my own full-blown pond. But my wife says the kids have to quit playing in the backyard first. So they got to get old enough to not want the dirt to play on. So
we've got I've got about a 70-gallon system out there right now, which the fish made it through the winter last year, but this year my de-icer broke, and I don't know if there's any. But I think we're going to add on to it this year, and actually a dug area, because I had the pre-formed area. But I think we're going to dig out an area this year, or at least start it. I don't know if we'll get it done this year. So, Scuba Steve, what's up, Scuba Steve? He says, would he consider moving to Louisville still? If so, we can be neighbors.
No, I don't think I would love to be neighbors. But Louisville's not for me. My grandfather is no longer alive, so that was kind of one of the draws to moving there. He passed away quite a few years ago now. But I did love Louisville, but I've got so many ties here, and with my kids and everything, I wouldn't want to move them that far. I would if the right opportunity presented itself, though.
So Scuba Steve, you got to make it worth his while, is what he's saying. Buy him a house or something. Yeah,
I would. I would honestly hate to leave the area though, because the local lakes that I grew up on. You and I have talked about. I got a kayak this year. I'm looking forward to getting back out on the water this year, and I'm less than an hour from the Smoky Mountains, which I believe is one of the most beautiful parts of the country. It would be hard for me to leave here. Gotcha.
You're home. Like I said, you found your place.
Yep.
Not a lot of people can. Fish Fam Mom Susan came in. Hi, Susan. Big Cat, Mountain Greenery's other half. I'm not going to say which one's better, but this is his regular question. Can you ask Mitch if he believes in aliens?
Believes in aliens.
Or at least the possibility.
I'm probably in the minority of saying no, I don't believe in aliens. I do believe in UFOs.
My lights just went. Have they been doing that?
It's the aliens.
Have they been blinking?
I don't think so.
This one always blinks, but
yeah. I don't know.
Maybe it is the aliens.
Maybe it's the aliens.
It's usually just green. I don't know. That just started.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just saw that. Well, I didn't even hear what your question was because I just saw that and it distracted me. What was your answer to that?
Yeah, I said I'm probably in the minority at this point, but I don't believe in aliens. I do believe in UFOs. I think UFOs are definitely a thing, but I haven't seen anything convincing enough of aliens. Although I will say, and if for people who maybe go on Bob Steenfott's live stream, you might know this. I do like
Yeah.
cryptids. I love the lore, and I love listening to stories of people who think they've seen something. So not to say that they don't, not to say they didn't see anything. I think they did see something, but yeah, I'm not sold on that one. I think there's
Gotcha.
explanations.
Hey, Whip. Hello, Whip. And here's Whip's regular one too. So you suddenly have all the money you could ever need. You never have to worry about, your kids will never have to worry about money. You don't have to worry about it. It's not even, you don't even think about it. You can do whatever you want. You can do anything you want. What are you doing and where? Did you just buy Flip Island? Fripp
Island.
Fripp Island. Flip Island.
No.
This got very bright too. Everything, my lights are going weird. That's everything.
I just denied aliens, and they're like, we've got to do something. We've got to convince this guy. All right, so one of my, someone I look up to a lot, I would say, is Dolly Parton. She's from my area. She's from Sevierville, and she does a lot to support people in our area as far as providing jobs at Dollywood and other attractions and stuff. She's very set on making sure they have a sustainable wage and things like that. If I had enough money to do whatever I wanted, it would probably be something like that. I would want to create something that not only would bring enjoyment for people, but would also help people in similar situations. There's a lot of areas in East Tennessee that are very, very, very poor. A lot of rural areas that just don't have a lot of opportunity, and to be able to provide something like that, I think would be very cool. And also not just in my area. I would even, there's a number of things that I would do probably globally to try and help with things. That's something that would mean a lot to me. If everything I ever needed was already taken care of, that's what I would do.
Nice. I love that answer. And I love Dolly too. I mean, the stuff you're right. She is just an amazing person who does a ton of good for all kinds of people, and she's just very open-minded and a great person. But I love that answer. That's one of the best ones I think we've heard. There's a lot of billionaires out there right now who could change the world, but they instead decide to buy Twitter. So, there's so much they could be doing to help other people and make the world a better place, but it's just hoarding money. So, Bunny Viper says, I'm waiting for the first guy to say invisible. It's a psychological question for sure. Hey, there's Mikey Mike. It's good to see you, Mikey. I was thinking about you today, Mike. I hope you're doing well. We haven't spoken in quite some time. Mike's Aquatics and Things. Grumpy Mike. It's good to see you, buddy. Okay. Let's see. We got about 20 minutes left. Your favorite fish that he has now, and then there's a second part to that. But let's start with that one. What's your favorite fish that you currently have?
My favorite fish so right now I'm really obsessed with my swordtails. I've always kept live bears, and I just in the last year got into swordtails, and they're just magnificent. They're beautiful. They're breeding like crazy. And I just love watching them. If it weren't for them, it would definitely be my Corys. I love Cory, like across the board. If you were to say my favorite fish, it would be Corys. But what I'm keeping right now, what am I really into? It's my swords.
Gotcha. You said you like live bears. Which other ones have you kept?
I kept mollies. Yeah, I kept mollies. I do have guppies and some endlers.
Any Goodeids or Limias? Have you gotten into those yet?
No. I had platies early on, and I got into mollies, and I don't know how I got into mollies, but I got into them, and I couldn't get rid of them. I still have some that I'm trying to get. I'm trying to grow them up so I can get rid of them. But yeah, the mollies, they're a difficult fish. I my water is just not ideal for them, and so it's very difficult to keep them healthy for a long period of time. Like I can get them healthy and keep them healthy for a while, but what I did learn is I got to keep the population down. If I can keep the population down, I can keep them healthy. But um, I was just got tired of that fight.
Gotcha. I got into guppies when I came back to the hobby almost 3 years ago now. Got into guppies because I had them when I was a kid, and I remembered them being relatively easy.
Yeah.
And they were this time around. I had a lot of fun with them, but I got tired of them pretty quick. But I do like the live bears too, and now I have Goodeids in this tank up here that I got from our friend Alishon, and I finally just got my first fry. So not that long ago. Very, very happy about that.
I know some people locally who have them, and it's something that I've considered. I've got to branch out into more tanks before I do something like that, though.
Gotcha. Yeah. I actually just took down a tank too. I'm trying to condense everything. So there was a second part to that too. And what's your bucket list fish?
Well, right now, that's actually easy. The orange Venezuelan Corridora. I am obsessed with that fish, and I want a school of them. But it will take some changing some tanks around and stuff first. But I'll have some eventually.
Somebody just recently, like in the last few months, somebody that I'm close to got some. Was it Bex? I can't remember who it was.
I think it is. Dan had some for a while, and I know some people got those.
Eduardo, hi. Let's see. So I'm scrolling down, and a lot of chatting going on. Thank you, Geek Boy, for dropping the links. So I'm looking through it. Here we go. Eduardo said I lived through the Jurassic area. I said I meant era. I'm scrolling way down. There's all kinds of conversation going on, but I'm just looking for the. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Dapper Dennis. Hi, Dennis. So, is there anybody in history Mitch would like to meet? Anybody,
anybody in history.
Yeah.
Yes, there are. I recently was reading. When I say recently, it took me a long time to read it. An author, Turnow's biography on George Washington, and I think he's an incredibly interesting person. I think it would be an extremely awkward conversation, and I think that would be awesome. Because that just seems to be his character. So I think it would be George Washington. I love our country and the history, and I wanted to be a history teacher, and so I would love to sit down and talk with him about his experiences and just like the story of how that guy came up and ended up where he was, the right place at the right time with the right set of ideals, and just had everything stacked against him at succeeding. And just, through what he would call providence, it worked out, right? It happened. I mean, they had to do a lot of work too, but,
sure.
And he had so many ideas. Like he was a thinker, and he wanted to see this country be, he had an idea to the point that he walked away from the presidency. He could have been president the rest of his life if he'd wanted to. He would have been a king. But he walked away from it because he didn't think that's how it should be done. And that man, I just think it would be an interesting conversation. I think it'd be awkward. I think it'd be very awkward because he didn't like things like that. But that would be it.
And there was a part 2 to that. Is there a specific time too that you would like to visit? Not even attached to that, to that time period, but is there a time throughout history that you would like to really visit? Yeah,
I hear so many great things about the 50s. I think I would like to go back and experience the 50s. I mean, life seemed to be simpler, and there wasn't a lot of reasons to die, right? There, say go back to the Wild West. There was a lot of ways to die back there. That would be interesting, but it also at the same time would be kind of frightening. I think the 50s would be interesting and also fairly safe.
I don't like to get into politics, otherwise I would comment on that, but we'll leave that alone.
Okay.
Zen Ginger says, Mitch, please describe the rest of your ideal life in 5 words. She does that. That's a tough one. So How
I
would you
can't.
like to see the rest of your life play out in 5 words? It's a tough
5
one. Yeah,
words.
yeah.
Okay.
First of all,
5
thinking
words.
about how just thinking about it, just answering a question without the 5 word limit is hard enough.
Yeah.
But 5 words.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I got 2 words. Um, I don't even know how to do this. So close family. Rest of my life play out in 5 words.
Yeah. How would it, the
Uh,
ideal?
early retirement. Happy.
There you go. There you go. You did it.
Yeah.
You did it.
You know,
That's a tough one. Thanks,
it's one of
Zane.
those things where for me, my family, like my immediate household, it's really important to me that we be close. And so that's something that I hope, I think about, I look at my girls and I think, I hope when they get older and they have family, that this is a place they want to come and want to spend time
Yeah.
with me and my wife. So that's something that is important to me. And the early retirement, that way I can do more of what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
And
not on track for early retirement, so it's not looking like that's a possibility. But we'll see.
I'm with you. Again, I have 3 kids, and my oldest owns a house up around the lake, 3 hours from us. But my other two still live at home. They're 25 and 21, and most of the time I don't want them to leave.
Yeah,
I'm not looking for them to move out. I like knowing that my son is here and that,
right.
you know, it's not that we baby him by any means. I mean, he leave tomorrow if he wants to, and we'll support him the best we can to get him out there. But
Yeah,
the same exact way, I want them to always know that this is a place they can always come, no matter what. They're
yeah,
always welcome here. So,
yep.
Select Pet. Hi, John says, what will it take to get Mitch 2 more tanks set up?
I need some 2x4s and some screws. I've already got the spot. I just need a stand. I do
Nice.
have plans on building a rack. I'm just not ready for it just yet, but I do plan on building a rack and having some. I want some Corey tanks. It's basically what I want.
Gotcha. I like Corey's too. I've got some gold lasers and some
Yeah.
long fin pandas. Let's see. Brookley Bell. Hi, Brookley again. So Mitch loves duck talk. I love that she put so. I bet she didn't even mean to,
Yeah.
but so Mitch loves duck talk, but does he love duckweed?
No.
She's dealing with duckweed right now.
Yeah. No,
Whip says,
I just cleaned out my duckweed a couple of weeks ago. And, every time I look in and see more, it just eats away at me.
I don't mind it. I do once a week. I take the pick, the hair pick, and use that and scoop up a bunch of it. But
Yeah.
I
I
don't
need to
mind
try
it.
that. I've tried a number of ways. My biggest problem, like in the 75, it's not that bad right now because although I have fry, one thing I've learned is the swordtails don't really stay at the top of the water, which is another thing I like about them. The guppies do. So in the 25, trying to clean out the duckweed is a pain with all
That's
the
why
guppies.
that pick is great because
Yeah.
there's enough space for, and that's. I mean, Ed says he didn't invent it, obviously, but that's where I heard it first was from Ed. And you just got to get this. They usually come in a 3-pack. You use the smallest one of the picks,
Okay.
and the space between lets all the fry and stuff go, but it picks up the duckweed really, really good. It takes me 3 minutes on the 75 just to go through and
That's a
it's not
dream.
pristine. It's not pristine.
Right,
I
right.
just get it so that it's not. When I only do it when it starts getting too thick that it's blocking the light for the plants because you could see there's quite a few plants in there. So
part of my problem and the reason why I hate it so much is because I do keep some floaters. Like I like having a duck or not duckweed, frog bit. Because on one end of my tank, I like to keep slow growing plants. And so I do want them shaded out a little bit. And so trying to clean out the duckweed and keep
I'll
the
leave them
frog bit
those.
in That's a
Yeah.
pain. That's why I
Yeah.
hate it so much.
I have water lettuce too, so floaters obviously, and I got those from Ed too. Ed sent me some water lettuce like 2 years ago, and I take it outside and put it in the pond. And in my tanks, it's about this big, right?
Yeah.
But in the pond, it gets like this. You know,
Right.
it just gets massive, and it takes so much stuff out of the water and cleans the water. And okay, we're running out of time now. We got 10 minutes left, so. Whip said that Aquascape is out of Chicago.
That's
Modern Design is a certified Aquascape contractor, does amazing work, but they're over by James. So Modern Design is somewhere close to you. They do pond work too.
So I really want to do it myself. Like I have designed my trash can filter system. I've got a lot of ideas of how I want to do it. I want to dig the hole. My brother, the one that's 10 years from me, he is into running equipment like crazy, and he would rent it and bring it over as soon as I told him I was ready to dig a hole, and we would do it.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of really great companies in my area that I've watched do ponds. Is it Rhett? Did a pond a few years ago. I can't think of his channel's name. He's like Sevierville or somewhere around here.
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I can't think of. I've not seen anything from him in a while. But yeah, he did a pond. He has like a hillside in his backyard.
Rack.
Thank you. Yes.
Rack Cross. Yes. Rack.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rack's got an amazing pond with the bird feeders and stuff there too. And yeah. The trickling down over the rocks and stuff. And yeah.
Yeah, I watched those videos. Plus, he's a
great guy. Rack's a good guy.
I did meet him. I believe I met him at Aquaticon. If it wasn't there, it was somewhere else. I've met him once. But yeah, I messed up his name. You're right.
Good guy, Rack. Scuba Steve says, how about I move to Tennessee? That works for me. So I think he's looking for a place to maybe you have a pull-out bed or something that he can.
We'll work something out. I've got a shed in the back that I need to make temperature controlled anyway. So we'll get to work on it. Was Scuba Steve the one that asked about Louisville?
Yes.
I was thinking about that after. Don Rosa lives in Louisville. I would definitely visit Louisville. Don Rosa is one of my favorite writers, and I don't know that he would let me come to his house though.
Yeah, you interviewed him, right? You said on your podcast, didn't you?
No, I have sat down and talked to him. He would not let me interview him.
Oh, okay.
He's an interesting guy. He has a sign at his table to let people know that what he does is not DuckTales, and don't ask him about DuckTales. Don't talk to him about DuckTales. Okay. And I totally understand it because he did something totally different from that, and because of the timing, it was always associated, and so he's always had fans come up and ask him about it.
Yeah,
he didn't work on it, but he's a little rough, and so as a matter of fact, one of the last times I sat down with him was talking with him. I sat down with him for 2 hours, and at one point he asked me, he goes, "Can I see your phone?" He wanted to make sure I wasn't recording on my phone.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, I wouldn't do that to you. He's like, well, can't be too careful. But I mean, he's one of my favorite artists and writers, but he's a little difficult sometimes.
He just didn't. Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's Geek Boy says, yeah, they weren't blinking 5 minutes ago. And of course, that was 20 minutes ago when he said that. So and Ed went back and they weren't blinking. That's weird. Is Wally chewing on a remote somewhere? The remote is actually right next to Deadpool's head. So that's really weird. Okay, I got to scroll down because we've only got a few minutes left. Actually, I think I got them all. Wow, that works out great. We have Whips wants to know where you're in Knoxville. Are you in Knoxville or close to Knoxville?
Okay. So Knoxville's a metro city. Like, it's very spread out. The downtown's not that large, but I do live within the city limits. Or I'm considered in Knoxville, but a lot of people are.
Whip says he'll eventually be there. Because he has property down in Tennessee, I remember. And I think when he retires, he wants to move down there.
We talked about that online.
we'll make this the last question.
Okay.
Zen Ginger wants to know your last meal, prison rules, meaning whatever you want. What would be your very last meal that you would eat?
A good steak and potato and a salad. That would be
That's
it.
that's so boring.
I know,
That's
but that's exactly
disappointed.
what it would like. It
That's
needs to be a
something.
good steak. It's got to be a good steak. Like
Yeah, that goes without
not
saying. I mean, it's
yeah,
your
like
last meal. It better
it it,
friggin' be.
it it's a steak that needs a sauce, right? It's got to be perfectly cooked,
Sure.
seasoned just right. That potato needs to be huge,
You
and
like what you like.
I want a very like very bad for me house ranch dressing on that salad. Yeah, that would be it though. I don't eat a lot of red meat anymore, so that's probably why. When I do, I try not to do hamburger meat anymore very much. But when I do red meat, it's gonna be a steak, and so it's probably what I'm just wanting right now.
Gotcha. Lady Rorschach, actually, Lady Rorschach brings up a point here that if anyone wants to send questions to me prior to Focus On, I'd gladly welcome them. No, trying to come up with concise, quick answers rather than ponder for too long, so long as that is allowed. So, I mean, obviously, you can do whatever you want. I'm not here to tell you what you can or can't do. If people want to feed you some questions before, that's fine. But really, the whole point of this is to be very, very, I don't have any kind of script. I have some ideas of what I ask people, but I just follow where the conversation takes us, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like if you get questions beforehand and you've already got the answers, it's not going to be a conversation. It's just going to be answering those questions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I'm not going to tell you what to do. If that makes you more comfortable, then by all means, feel free. That's the main thing for me, is that you feel comfortable. So if that makes you feel more comfortable, by all means, do that. But really, it's just a conversation, and I don't want it to feel stilted or not genuine. You know what I mean? Okay. So Mitch, before we go, first of all, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to tell people about you, or even promotional? If you want to talk about your YouTube channel or anything like that going on, feel free. Now's a good time to do that.
Okay. Yeah. So Scruffy City Aquatics, that's the YouTube channel. I've really enjoyed it. I can't tell you how much the community is just amazing. I've really enjoyed that aspect of it. When I thought about doing a channel, I really didn't know if I had anything to offer. And I felt like, even though I enjoyed the creation process, which is what I really love, I love the creation process and the editing and the creating of the video and everything. And that's why Sean Peck is like one of my, he's one of my role models here, because I love his artistic, the way that he does it. I love what he does.
Very professional, very professional. Yeah.
And I like tweaking and trying, and this has affected Duck Talks and stuff too. The way we do things is totally different now, but I really enjoy doing that part of it. And that was why I did it, because I don't feel like I'm all that knowledgeable in the hobby. As a matter of fact, that's why I have Tanner on the podcast on the show, because he's extremely knowledgeable, and I can just kind of, I can be there for the entertainment and the goof off and to make mistakes and to laugh about it. And then he can give some really good information. A lot of times we have our own notes that we share, and he'll put stuff in there and I steal it and I use it in the show so that everybody thinks I know what I'm talking about. But we always tell people, we're just talking about things from experience, and that's all my channel will ever be. It's just my experiences in the hobby. I'm really passionate about people just getting started and helping people not have such a hard go. I feel like a lot of people try to get into the hobby and they run into so many problems, and then they go online and they get so many conflicting information, and then you have people who are just not nice about things, and so I kind of have a soft spot for that, and I feel like a lot of my content is going to be more along those lines moving forward. That's really what I want to focus on, and a lot of our live streams have been topics that I wish I had done a video on, so I'll eventually come back around and do videos on those. But yeah, I hope you'll check it out, and hope you find something that you enjoy. The live streams are fun. I didn't plan on live streaming. I didn't want to be a live stream channel, but I went on Susan's live stream very early on, and I enjoyed it. And I was talking with Tanner, and I was like, it was so much fun, we should do it. He's like, I'd be up for it. I was like, okay, we're doing it now, and so we do it. But it has kind of taken over the channel, and I'd like to do some more videos. I'm going to get there. But yeah, if you like people who ramble and carry on about stuff, I am your guy. You should check it out.
Well, I've definitely watched it a few times. To be honest, a lot of times I go to bed right after I'm done. I miss a lot of the later night, even though it's 9 o'clock. I still miss a lot of those later streams. But I've always enjoyed it. You guys have a good chemistry, you and Tanner. He looks like the Frito-Lay guy. Remember, I was on there one time. Do you remember? He looks like that guy from the 70s commercial, the Frito-Lay guy. And he agreed. He said, oh, yeah, that guy does look like me. I think that was the same type night I said, you look like Nate, I think. I was saying you guys look like But it's always a fun stream. I always like watching it. Again, Lady Rorschach is our guest for this coming up Tuesday. So check that out. Lady Rorschach is a mystery to me. I mean, we've seen her around for the last year or so. But I really don't know a lot about her. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about her. Thanks so much.
Seeing people. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I always like to see people on their live streams try to say her name for the first time. Because it's so funny because I knew it. And yet on the live stream, because you're in front of people, I butchered it. And I was like, why can't I say that?
How did you say it the first time?
I don't even remember, but it was horrible. I mean, I grew up reading comics. I know what Rorschach is.
Watchmen, but of course the Rorschach tests and stuff. Yeah, I knew. I definitely knew the name right off the bat and we're going to talk about that too, how she came about that name. So I know where your name came from because a magazine in New York City,
Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street. Thank you. I couldn't remember which one. A magazine in New York City. It was for the
82 World's Fair.
Thank you. World's Fair is what I was dragging on. I couldn't think of it. And they called it the Scruffy City. Because weren't they in the running for it as well?
They might have been. They were really putting down Knoxville as how could they choose this city to do it? And they were like this scruffy little city. And Knoxville was like, you know what? We kind of like that. We're going to take it. And so we became the Scruffy City. And I grew up, always hearing that. And so it's always been something that I was born in 82. So it's something that I've always kind of been, attached to. And when I started to create a channel, I was like, what could I do? And that was the first thing I thought of. And I was like, I like it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it fits. Definitely. I love it. Yes, Whip, you will definitely see Lady Rorschach next Tuesday. Yep. All right. Well, we're 2 hours. So it is Saturday night. There's still some good streams on tonight. You can go to fishfam.link, take a look. There's still quite a few of them left tonight. And then tomorrow, of course, is a full day, all kinds of cool ones then. And we'll see Mitch next Tuesday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. Thanks, Mitch, for hanging out with us. And I'm clicking buttons now. So